Welcome to another episode of the Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, also best-selling author, and every single day I help others unlock potential and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have another fascinating guest. On the show, we interview celebrities, entrepreneurs, business CEOs, athletes, and artists to find out their path to success, how they're able to overcome challenges, adversity, and of course, their keys to success. And today's guest is somebody who comes highly recommended for what she does, and she's been helping a lot of people really achieve great results, extraordinary success through animating the business culture through business improvements and of course team building. And she does so with meaningful digital connections, storytelling, and of course social media as well. She truly believes that creating a great new, better world requires great new, better business as well. She is the co-author of the book Cultural Revolution. She's an expert in people, profit, and process. So please welcome an ideas gardener and entrepreneur, a co-founder of ENTA Solutions, Ms. KATELYN Bullock.
Oh, thanks, Fawn. What a wonderful, wonderful introduction. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being here. Always excited to chat with people who comes from a so-called left-minded background and then moving into a more right-brained and entrepreneurship industry as to what you're doing right now. So please share with us. How did you get from where you were to where you are today, helping so many people become more successful and achieve great results in their business?
That's a long story, but I will give you the shortened version of that. I think I was always on the right-minded side, the creative. Growing up, I was a a competitive dancer, figure skater. I loved being on stage. I was in theater and anything I could do to be part of the show, right?
That sounds
Was
nothing like an engineer that you are about to become.
I know. And it really it it came down to, our parents instill in us this sense of, well, you need to have a good job, right? And so when I was like, yeah, I want to get into acting, and my parents are like, well, have a backup plan first. So to put my backup plan first was kind of like a switch. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I said to my mom, well, okay, I'll be an engineer then. And I had no idea what it was. I did not know what I was getting into. I was good naturally at math and science. It kind of just came along and I went through engineering and it was not easy. Like I failed my first year. I had to relearn how to learn. And I kind of just pushed through because my competitive nature, I think, right? And I came out into the world of engineering thinking that I was going to go into designing like bio-friendly makeup. And I got a job in construction. Right? Um, in construction and in oil and gas to boot, right? Which I quickly fell in love with the challenges there. And I realized that the biggest challenges weren't in the design, it weren't in the engineering of it, it was in the people. The biggest challenges were inspiring people to follow the process, inspiring people to understand how they could drive the results in the business. And I quickly became a project manager. Then I became a quality manager across the Eastern Division, which then moved me to the Western Division. I came out west here. You and I are in the same area, so this is really cool. Um, and I had this realization when I met my business partner. I was just, consulting on my own. And we had this realization that the people problems are the most fun to solve. And he is also an engineer. He's an aerospace engineer. And so like here's these two like big engineer nerds who love the people problems, who understand that you can write all the processes and procedures you want in the world, but if the people aren't engaged, it's not going to make a difference. And that was the epiphany, right? We had a project that cleared the contractor cleared the a whole football field of trees in the wrong area. And it wasn't from lack of systems, processes, and tools. The people weren't engaged,
Right.
right? And so it was a really big epiphany. And that's where we said, okay, that's it. We're going to start ENTA. This is like over 10 years ago. We're going to start ENTA and we're going to help companies integrate their people into the way they do business through like that team building, the business process. And that was kind of like the really fast journey of how I got there and the highs and lows.
I wish 10 years ago I met you because I was probably struggling with the same thing. Because
Right?
Oh yeah, because I was good at math, I was good at science and all that kind of stuff, and I became a structural engineer, and it was one of those things that you kind of didn't know what you're getting into until you're into it, and then you didn't want to fail at it, so you just chug along and work at it. And with regards to the people thing, I was leading a team about 20 25 people. And then obviously, once you have you completed your job, then you're going to be going down and laying people off and downgrading and all that kind of stuff. And there was this one engineer who came up to me and goes, "Why is it every time that when this happens, I'm one of the first people to go?" And I go, "Well, it's not you." She goes, "Is it my work ethic? Is it my quality?" I'm like, "It's none of that stuff. Because I could put you on any job and I know for sure that you'll get it done and it will be great. But when we're lacking work and we're trying to put people in front of clients and trying to win work, I can't put you in front of the client because you can't speak. So one thing I would highly encourage you to work on is go work on those people skills, work on those speaking skills, those leadership skills, so that we could put you in
Right.
front of a client or something like that. And that's what most people in the engineering realm don't really understand. It's the
Yeah.
people issue. It's the process and how do you actually engage with people. So when you realized that and you went and decided, hey, you know what? Let's start this whole new thing, completely different than engineering because now you're being an entrepreneur, you're starting your own business, you're relying on yourself. What was that process like? How did you feel? How much fear did you have? How many people were telling you, don't do it, come back?
Um, Honestly, like I started consulting on my own. Um, I wanted to, when I came out west, I wanted to start creating the processes and systems at a higher level so that we could prevent issues instead of me going in and cleaning them up in the quality world. And they weren't quite ready yet. So I was like, that's okay. I'll just do this on my own. And I was probably a bit naive, but I had some other like older people who are like, ah, I've been contracting for years. You'll do fine. Here's my lawyer. Go get set up. Like kind of mentoring me through it. And back when I worked in construction, so like I wasn't the right person to do culture then. I don't even know if well, they called me the bulldog. Okay. That was my nickname. Because if they won't, they just like, if you want something done, give it to Caitlin and watch out. Right. Because I would plow through everything to get it done. It was like their guarantee that it would be done right, done well. Like, just give it to Caitlin. But I probably didn't make a ton of friends along the way, if you know what I mean. Um, so really, it took a huge like breakdown. And what had happened is I got my first consulting job for a big engineering firm. They're a global firm, and they were so polite to wait a solid 3 months before they asked me to take EI training. And so if anybody's doing the Wealth Workout 8 with JT Fox right now, like this was today. It was all emotional intelligence, right? And so this was, I had to take this training. And I thought to myself, oh, good, I can manipulate people now. I can read their emotions and make them do what I want. But what was happening in my personal life, Fong, and this is, we're getting a little vulnerable here, is my marriage was failing. And I was 1 year in, and the man that I fell in love with, I could no longer connect with. At work, I'd built up all these walls to operate the way I thought I needed to lead, and I couldn't take them down when I got home, and so I couldn't connect. I couldn't communicate, and I was failing in my marriage, and so I was going to marriage counseling, and I took this EI training. I learned the logistics of it, which spoke to my analytical mind, and then I had to practice it in my marriage counseling, and I had to, and it was hard, and it was a huge shift for me to look at my values and to live by them. And then this is this epiphany where I was like, okay, we need to do this. Like people need to do this, not just on an individual level, but at the business. We need to look at our values. We need to behave through those values, right? And it was this huge epiphany moment that happened to me to be able to go, okay, not only is there a need in business for process and people integration, but there is a need inside of me to do this path, right? To make a better world, to have people live connected. I've been now married for over 11 years, and every day it's work, and every day I'm so happy that I get to work at it.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that and being
Thank
able
you.
to overcome that challenge because not everybody who's are able to overcome that type of challenge when they realize how deep they're into it already. and
Yeah.
be able to realize, okay, this is an issue. Let's fix it up. Let's put ourselves kind of put those egos aside and kind of work towards becoming better. So
Right.
when you were going through that process, like what were some of the things that you realized, okay, I need to change this in order for my business to succeed and grow? Because before you're like, hey, I got a paycheck coming in all the time. I'm working for another company, but now it's all on you. So what were some
Right.
things that you have to adjust right away so that you're able to go, you know what? I could rely on this. I'm comfortable. I could keep on growing.
Um, so, that's a great question. I think as engineers, we're really good at iterating to success. I don't call it failure, I call it iterating to success. And so, because me and my business partner had that mentality to analyze, critique, and pivot, um, we we have navigated the complexities of the economy, of the pandemic, of all of those things in a way that kept saving our business and kept us surviving. And it wasn't until I reached out to um, coaches and people who knew way more than me did I begin to see how we can thrive, right? And so it took some of those iterations to success, some awakening moments to navigate that and to navigate our own blind spots, right? Like the pandemic was a huge one. We lost 90% of our contracts. And at that point, it was just me and Adam in the company. We had bought ourselves jobs unknowingly,
Yep.
right? And I think this is a journey for a lot of new entrepreneurs who are just plugging along. And so like we had lost 90% of our contracts and we're like, okay, we have 3 months before we can't contribute to our mortgages and our families are going to be in trouble, right? And that's a scary, and I think everybody was scared at that point. We learned everything we could about social media, digital marketing, and we leaned into that and we saved our business in 3 months. We blew projections in six. And then people kept coming to us going, what are you doing? I see you everywhere. And so we said, okay, well, we'll just teach you what we know, right? And then they're like, great, do it for us. And I'm like, is this who we are? Like we're culture people. But then I realized that, and this, it is connection. Your social platform is connection. It is about your digital culture. It's how your community perceives you. It's how you can give back and add value to another network. It's just on a digital platform. And so that's how social media kind of became a part of what we did, is to then say, okay, this is your culture inside your company. How are you perceived externally? And how do your own employees interact with your external um, social media in a way that builds culture and builds teams? And it's been so powerful.
That is very, very awesome. So when it comes to creating that digital connection and also having a strong social media platform for like companies and businesses, what have you found as some of the most common mistakes or most common things that people miss on their websites or on their social content that prevents them from making that connection?
I mean, the biggest thing to me is they think build it and they will come. And that's no longer the case, right? You can't just be like, I have a
You get
website.
crickets when you build it, so
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. They're like, I launched a website, and it's like one view, and it's your mom, right?
if
So,
even.
yeah, she's too busy. So no, what what I think is the biggest common mistake is that like people are afraid to get in front of that camera and be authentic. They they underplay the fact that they don't have a message or whatever. So what we actually do in our social media is we talk to our clients and we say, okay, like, look, we're going to set up interview styles. We're going to set up, actual people working. People connect and trust with faces, right? This is why you have your face on your background image. They connect. There's a layer of trust that happens there. I walked past you at an event once, and I immediately knew who you were. Why? Because you put your face out there, Fong, right? Um, that and the speaker brought you on stage, that helped. But like this is what I mean. Get in front of people, be real, be authentic. And I think people are scared to do that. And so what we help them do is get in front of that camera and talk about their culture. What's it like to work there? Interview their staff. Be real. It doesn't need to be curated. It doesn't need to be pretty pictures. Don't convert. People do. Emotion does.
Exactly. There's two things I
Yeah.
want to add to that. I have a cousin-in-law who's in marketing and branding and all that kind of stuff. And he posted on
Yeah.
LinkedIn one day. He goes, "How many pictures do I have to see of engineers pointing at something far in the distance without actually pointing to something?" And these stock images are all over the place. So I thought it would be funny if I grabbed my hard hat, told my wife to put on her hard hat, and just go point and stuff and do a whole bunch of photos and send to him.
I love it. And it's so true. Like one of our clients, was in the construction industry and they were asking me what I thought on the strategy on their current strategy. And I was like, well, like you're the only person who gets excited about your equipment. And they're like, what? And I was like, I mean, you post these awesome pictures of your equipment. They're beautiful. The sun is peeking over the horizon. It's gorgeous. You're the only one who cares. And they're like, oh, and people want to hear about you. They want to hear about the stories, the triumphs of the project, the how you overcame, right? Like, a lot of clients will ask me, well, how much should I write in my bio? And I'm like, I don't know. How interesting are you? Like, you'll sit and read a whole novel if you get to a good story. So tell your story. And they're like, well, I don't have a story. And if you know this because you help people write their stories, right?
Yeah,
So like help like tell your story. That's powerful. People connect with that,
exactly.
right? So
So, since we got to the storytelling part, one of
yeah,
the expertise that you have is helping people create that video storytelling for people.
yeah.
There's a lot of people out there who goes, you know what, I have a story. I have a story to tell. And it's always the sob story. They tell about their background and they believe that that story gets people interested. So, what actually makes a good, successful storytelling story for people to use for business?
Well, I think you got to start with the result that you want, right? Start with what you're trying to achieve. Like, you ever hear about the hero's two journey?
Mhm.
This is like the concept of, if you're going to tell a story, one, you need to relate to the character, right? And then two, you need to see them go on an actual journey, the physical journey, and then the emotional journey. So a lot of people have that emotional journey really like sought out, like, oh, or the physical journey really sought out, right? They might touch into the emotional journey, but then they don't bring it all together to the epiphany moment that converts to the result that they want. So it's that end epiphany where it all comes together, that physical journey, right? The emotional journey, where it's like, yes, here's the epiphany moment. And this is what you do with it. It's the what you do with it that matters, right? A lot of people go on and they tell their sad story, and they might even tell the fact that they triumphed. But then how does this apply to me, the listener? How does this apply to me? What can I do with it, right? So, when I went through my difficult time and I had this epiphany realization, I need to start a company on culture, right? That's the journey of my epiphany, right? It was the physical journey, it's the emotional journey. I started a business, I'm thriving in this business, but now it's what can you do with it? Well, we have spent the last decade working with specialists and experts to create culture programs that companies can use that are, specific to them,
Right.
right? Like now this is what you need to do with it because the epiphany is that every single person wakes up excited in your company,
Mm.
you are going to get 60% greater productivity. You are going to get higher profitabilities. You are going to find retention, loyalty, better A team players. Like don't kid yourself, it's a strategy, right? So when you're storytelling, that's the journey they have to go on and then what to do with it. How does it apply to them? And I
Right.
think people miss that what to do with it piece. Would you
Exactly.
agree?
Oh, totally. Because people are so caught up in the past and
Yeah.
what they're successful in the past, and they kind of stop there, and they keep on retelling that same story how they overcame it. But then now what? Now what did you do with it? Now what did you do with your second chance or your second life or whatever it is that you've done, right? And they kind of miss that moment, and people go, okay, well that doesn't really apply to me anymore, so I'm just gonna go find somebody else. So
Right.
it's I totally agree. And when you're saying that once you get that epiphany moment and people go, okay, I got it. Now I'm passionate. I want to share it. And you go, okay, great. Now share with it on screen and in front of the camera. And they go,
Right.
can somebody else do it? Can we just write about it? Can we just type it out? But no, you have to be in front of the camera. So how do people get past the camera fright?
Ah. It does help if you have like our videographers that we use are so good at getting people through that, right? Because it's like You don't have to stress about the tech. Like if you're doing it yourself, it's hard sometimes to get started. You're stressing about the tech, and then you're like, oh, what if I mess up, and worry about what they say and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to do it yourself, push through the cringe. Like the first 40 times you will be on camera will be cringeworthy, but you got to just put it out there. You put it out there, push through the cringe, you'll find your voice, you'll find your vibe, and you got to keep going, right? Like you've done over what, 200 interviews?
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, like you got to push through. If you went back and looked at your first interview, do you think it would be like,
I don't.
no, right? And I don't go back and look at mine because I feel cringe. I still get that cringe
Mm,
feel. But you got to push through and get in front of that camera to do it because what's more important, inspiring those around you or feeling embarrassed? Right? And it's going to be cringy. It's going to be embarrassing, but push through because you'll find your vibe, you'll find your footing. Like you don't go to a dance studio and start dancing like an expert,
mm.
right? You have to go and you have to trip over yourself a little bit, and it's okay. And I think people actually resonate with that because it's authentic. Like every time I see somebody holding their camera on social and they're like a little awkward, I'm like, you get them, you go. Like you're out there. There's like 90% of the people just take in social. There's only like 10% of the creators,
Exactly.
right? So you
Exactly.
can have a voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody said something interesting recently, and they said that if you are too scared of sharing your message or speaking in front of a camera because you don't want to be embarrassed and all that kind of stuff, he said, "Well, shame of you. You're just being selfish because all you're thinking about is yourself." I'm like, "Ah, that's
That's
a
right.
take on it because you're
I
not
love
thinking
that.
about the other people." So I'm like, "Ah, that's cool. I'll use that next time."
I love that 100% because like your message is more powerful. You have to be so bought into what you're doing that you're willing to get uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Who else is going to follow you if you're not,
Exactly.
right?
Now, something else you're very good at is creating these creative team building exercises.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to hear some of these exercises that you put people through because people might be scared of at first once they hear what you're saying, but once they're into it, I'm
Yes.
sure everybody's very energetic, everybody's very connected, and the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, and it's so funny because we do a lot of this for engineering firms, for oil and gas and for construction companies. So you can imagine. In
I
fact,
can
we have,
imagine all these like left-brain
oh
engineers who've been
yeah.
sitting in the corner for the like last 10 years being asked to do whatever you're gonna come up with next. So go ahead.
It's so, oh Fong, it's so funny to watch them. Like you can watch their body language. And I know um we do a lot of like studying on body language and how to read people, right? And so like one of the things I find is so you get these guys scowl on their face and like arms crossed, right? And then especially in the engineering world, we'll be like, well, hi, my name's Caitlin, I'm an engineer. Oh, you're an engineer doing our culture stuff. And all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, I'll listen. So I've like cracked the door open a little bit. Um, but one of the, we just did one a while back for a client that was an acquisition. And anybody who's in the mergers, acquisitions, roll-up world knows how critical connecting two cultures can be, right? A lot of companies will factor in dollars for losing of 70% of their employees in the next 3 years. It's in the millions and millions of dollars. Like, why wouldn't you just invest a little bit to prevent that and keep your A teams, right? And so we did this workshop, and it started off very much that you saw the two cultures, right? You saw people, it was very much closed. One was on one side of the table, the other company on the other side of the table. And by the end of the 2 days, like you have to push people to get uncomfortable a little bit, but we're super conscious of people being analytical type minds a lot of times in these roles. And so we push them to uncomfort and then we bring them back to analytics and to the science and to like real logistical stuff that they can do. And then we go into the emotional a little bit more. So we curate the day so that they go through these mind shift transitions as comfortable as they can. But this team, it was so crazy. By the second day, you couldn't tell who was from who.
Mhm.
And the power of it, we went to one of their Stampede parties, as you know, Calgary Stampede. Went to one of their Stampede parties, and we were talking to some of their employees, and they're like, that workshop was critical. We're the highest performing out of the entire company.
Wow, that is
And they're
awesome.
like, that was the start of us creating such an amazing, and to their credit though, they kept it going.
Mm.
Like so many companies do a workshop and they don't keep it going.
Right.
You know, they kept it going. And so like that is the power of it. They're the highest profitable center in your entire company.
What is one of the exercises that you put them through?
Um, we, depending on how we'll sit with their leadership first to see how much they're willing to go, how deep they're willing to go. And we have different levels of intensity. One of the most intense workshop exercises we do is the high-low exercise, um, where we have everybody think about their three lowest lows and their three highest highs. Now, it can't be marriage, and it can't be birth of their children because those are given and people default to those. I want to get outside of those experiences.
Right.
And we ask them to share a low with each other, and we ask them to share a high. Now, in this, like if a company's willing to do this, it's really intense, it's really emotional. People like there's tears, it's intense. But what you realize is that there's a whole bunch of people who have gone through these tragedies and have triumphed, and you see what they're proud of and you see what brings them joy, and we connect on a human level. And the power of that is that we are just all humans,
Right.
right? You stop seeing that person as the VP of supply chain and as just a human who went through a tragedy, and in fact it was similar to your tragedy and you've connected on a whole nother level. This is way deeper than the water cooler stuff you'll ever get, right? And so when they start behaving in a certain way, you have this connection point with them and this understanding. It gives people grace to be human again, right? And a lot of times we'll get feedback that that's their favorite part of the entire workshop. And it's so funny because I think it's just permission to be vulnerable, permission to be human. And we forget that in our companies so much.
It's very common for like engineering firms and also other consulting companies to go, you know what? Uh, their budget for training is usually non-existent, to say the least.
Hmm.
So how do you convince them to go, hey, this is what you need, and then also retain them for a long period of time? Because like when times are low and in Alberta, when oil is down, then everything's out the window, right? They go, the
Hmm.
first thing they cut is training budget. So
Yep.
what do you do differently than other training organizations that keeps people on board?
So one of our differentiators is our subscription model. And what that does is it gives them a whole year of strategic culture. And when we talk about strategic culture, it's not just these team buildings. The team buildings are accelerators. But then how do you take it and how do you build it into your processes and your procedures? And a lot of times with engineers, if you can talk to them about their processes and the procedures, and I mean, in Alberta, a PEGA mandates a PPMP, and it's all management processes, right? But if you take that and be like, hey guys, this isn't a checkbox done. This is to drive better business results. And you bring your culture into that because it's behaviors you want, right? Somebody doesn't read a PPMP, somebody doesn't read a procedure and go, yay, I'm going to follow it step by step, right? They end up out the window and they just do what they do through their behaviors. So, how do you align everything and make it a solid foundation? Because we can speak to the process side, because we can speak to that, they go, yes, you solve a huge problem for me, right? Even in a downturn when I can't have a whole department to do this, or I'm not in, I can keep moving my business forward at an amount that's right for us, but I don't need to keep that person like fully on overhead necessarily. And a lot of companies don't even have that person. You know what they do? They try to give this huge job that takes an expert to do to somebody on the side of their desk in your spare time, right? Create our business processes. And so I think like this is kind of, we got to get past that because this is your business that you're trying to drive and build a foundation and you're trying to scale it, you're trying to grow it, hopefully to sell it or, one day, I mean, everybody's exiting at some point, one way or another, right? So like do it in a way that you have built something that stands up on its own. And so that's what we help companies do. And because we have that analytical side with the people side, that's our differentiator. That's what keeps us as a solid foundation in these companies.
That is very, very important and also something that's lots of people forget about. And when it comes to training, it's very unfortunate. Most of the companies out there usually cut training budgets first.
Yep.
And that's really where they should actually put more effort into it so that people are more engaged, their employees will stay longer, and they'll create that culture that you're talking about. And once that culture is there, then
Yeah.
people are actually working for each other instead of just for the name on the side of the building or whatnot. So, something that most people forget about.
You're right. And you know what? When times are tough, this is where you need the most efficiency in your business. This is where you need the highest productivity because you have to do more with less. So like this is the like culture and culture as a strategy and process optimization is the last thing you should cut. You should be investing in that because you need to be able to do more with less.
Yeah.
And that's your single unit to scale, right? So
Exactly. Now, when you were going through this process, your career change, your industry change, you went from doing calcs to managing people to now speaking on stages, doing podcasts, writing
yeah.
books and whatnot. How was that an easy transition for you, or was there things that I had to work on speaking more, or I had to work on this more to be better at that, or was that something that because you said at the very beginning you wanted to be that actress, you want to be that person that's outgoing in front of people. So was that transition actually easy for you?
I think I mean the logistical, the like the physical transition of being on stage was easy, right? Like I loved being on stage. I love speaking. I think there was a bit of an imposter syndrome saying like, do I belong here?
Mhm.
Right? That I had to get over, especially when my mom's like, let's do your backup plan first. Right? And we got to love our parents. They're always looking out for the best of us. And I had wonderful parents. I'm very grateful for them. But that thought of like, this is my, you know, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. Definitely, right? Like, oh, well, I probably wasn't good enough to make it on stage because I needed to do my backup plan first. That mindset shift really had to happen for me to be like, no, I belong here and my message is important. And if I can inspire companies to invest in culture, whether it's with us or whether they do it themselves or whether they do it with other experts, they are investing in culture. We are creating workplaces where people are excited to go to, right? Like I wake up jazzed to go to work,
Mhm.
right? And I remember driving through the Tim Hortons drive-through one time, and I was like, "Oh, I'll have a large black, Canada, Tim Hortons. I'll have my large black coffee." And they're like, "Oh, Caitlin, it's so lovely when you come through." And I was like, okay, why do you say that? By just out of curiosity, like, "Oh, you should hear people in the morning." And I was like, are they not nice? They're like, they are downright rude. Like people bark orders at us. There's no politeness, there's no thank you, there's no like nothing. And I was like, man, people are literally like dragging themselves to work. And so I thought to myself, if we can create workplaces where everybody feels like I feel like so excited to go to work and to work with amazing people and clients, and if we could create that, then this social impact's going to be huge. They're going to treat the Tim Hortons attendant with kindness. They're going to go home and treat their spouse with kindness. They're going to plug in and be present with their kids because they're not going to be so emotionally drained, right? Imagine the world we could create if everybody felt like that every day,
That is awesome. It'll be
right? And to Oh my gosh, it just gets me like it gives me goosebumps. I'm like, yes, we can do this. And so for me, that message that I need to do that I need to create this better world through better business.
Mhm.
I need the platforms to do that. I need to be on stage, right? To inspire that business leader to go, yeah, yeah, we can create a workplace like that. We can
Another
change.
thing that I thought was pretty neat about that story is the fact that it takes very little to get noticed.
Very little.
Right? It's just a smile or being polite, and you become the person that they look forward to serving every single morning. And you stand
Right?
out. It just takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of action or gesture, and it goes a whole long way. And it also takes many of those little gestures to create a big culture that's positive and exciting and successful
Yeah.
as well. Now,
Yes.
one thing about culture I would like to ask is the fact that where's the line on what's accepting in culture? So for instance, are you open to everything? Are you open to all the PC stuff? Are you open to all the political stuff and all kind of stuff? What do you put out there to be authentic? Because my
Mm.
authentic self may be politically different than what your authentic self is. So therefore, do you kind of restrain yourself from certain messages, restrain yourself from certain messages or posts and stuff?
I love this question. This is so great, Fong. And I think this is everybody's individual like preference. And so when I help people like do their like personal branding on who they want to be, I talk to them about, you know, because they'll, and if I'm going to put them on social media, right? And the company, they're like, oh, I don't know what I want to post about or don't post about. I said, okay, you need to define that, right? You need to have this little safety box that's things you're not going to talk about because you don't want to. You don't want to open that box, right, on a social platform. And that's okay, that you can protect part of who you are. You don't, just because you're posting on social doesn't mean you have to post everything, right? But you need to talk about the things that bring your message forward. So like I don't post about politics. I have opinions about politics. I'm happy to debate politics like over a coffee with somebody and have fun. But I think what we're missing in society is the ability to hold opposite views in tension and still connect, right? For us to have a political debate with each other, not because we want to change your mind, but because I want to further understand you, and then still say, "Hey, Fong, okay, let's go grab a beer." Right? Let's go hang out, right? And we have missed that. This cancel culture has scared people out of the ability to have differing opinions and still connect.
Right.
Like that used to be the dinner table. The dinner table used to be the right side and the left side coming together, have dinner, have great, crazy conversations, debate, learn, understand, truly try to understand each other, and then still be friends.
Mhm.
And we have forgotten as a society a little bit how to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a great opportunity for people to practice, even in the workplace, holding differing opinions
Mhm.
and still connecting, right? Um,
I can imagine
yeah.
that first conversation. Well, I believe this. Uh,
D-
oh,
Uh,
you good? Okay. How
are
about
we, can
this?
we still?
Now this? You're okay? Okay,
Right?
let's start talking kind of thing. Because yeah,
Yeah,
it's very unfortunate that people are not speaking up about what they feel, how they think about certain things, and that's another issue too. Because when it comes to being silent about something, you got the haters coming in and go, "Well, if you're silent, therefore you must be thinking this." Right? So
right.
then what do you do? So how do you deal with negative feedback or comments or the haters coming on online?
Kill them with kindness.
Thank you.
Uh, I think there's always going to be people who want to start, right? They show up like this. I mean, this symbol right here is a whole workshop behind this. They show up like this, right? They want to fight. I mean, we see this in the oil and gas industry huge,
Hmm,
with people who you can't factualize with them. They are there to just fight their fight with blinders on. They're not there to understand. And you're never going to win. You're never going to change those minds, right? If there's people who are truly curious and they're like, interesting perspective, I disagree. Can we talk more about this? Or like they're willing to have the conversation, that's different. That's a conversation. But so many people comment with no intent of being curious. And so you're never going to win that battle. And so I wouldn't engage in those ones. There's a difference of engaging to create conversation and an engagement to because somebody just wants to battle it out. You can't fight that, right?
too much time on their hands.
Y- right? And so like don't engage, and especially too in the business world, you've got to keep like, why are you doing social to begin with?
Right.
You're doing it to drive your business. So if it's not adding to your goal of why you're doing social media, then you gotta make sure you don't get caught into that. And that, I've had clients come up and been like, I did something bad, Caitlin. I posted in my like my no post box. I did a political post and it kind of blew up. It can happen.
You got comments.
You got, I mean, there is that, right? Fine. It's like there's no such thing as bad publicity because those even negative comments push you in the news feed and
That's
help you find
right.
your people. But it's definitely going to cause you can't live in there. You can't live in that negativity. And so you've got to know how to separate yourself. But there's a lot of things you can post about that is real and beneficial that you can add a lot of value. And you got to know what value you're adding, I think, to your audience too.
Awesome. Well, totally agree with that. So thus far, what has been the biggest challenge that you've faced, and how did you overcome that?
Right. Biggest challenge I faced is thinking that I know the right answer.
Hmm.
Um, it might be part of engineering,
I
right?
was gonna say, sounds like an engineer.
Sounds like an engineer. We think we know everything, right? A little bit. And we think that even when you hear something, you're like, yeah, but I would do this. And sometimes you have to get out of your own way. And I think the biggest realization is that, I'm the problem. Like it's hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. Um, for our Swiftie fans out there. And I think being able to say, okay, I need to change my mindset. I need to get out of my own way. I got to see, I have to always be looking for my blind spots so that I'm not the limiting factor in my company. And I think as engineers and a lot of engineering firms, we have this ego that puts our blinders on that we don't realize we're the limiting factor. And so, I mean, I did it myself. And so, like, being able to listen to other people who have done it better
Hmm.
business wise, who have been more successful, and just like do exactly what they say even when my body's like, oh, I would change that. It's like, no, do what they say, test what they say because they did it,
Yeah,
right? And just have complete faith and do that and then go back and tweak it if it didn't work,
exactly.
right?
It's
So
better to do something and tweak than to have nothing to tweak at all. So
agreed.
exactly.
100%.
So with regards to people looking for your expertise and your help, what is the ideal group of people that you're looking for that you can maximize their success and their results?
I look for um, companies over 10 million in revenue. Okay, and they probably have 20 plus more people. This is where it starts to get complex.
Mhm.
Uh, we'll work with companies with hundreds, thousands, because it's really about microculture, not the macro approach anymore, right? And so, you know, the 80s was macro approach. Like, this is everybody's values, right? Here you go. And it's like people are like, okay. But really it's the micro approach. So it's working with individual teams. So I look for people with like 20 plus employees at the very minimum. Um, and then I look for companies, oil and gas, construction, engineering are great, although what we do is industry agnostic. So if this resonates with people, industry aside, I also look for whether they're willing to, this is what I call our 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 target is people who are willing to get a little uncomfortable because I'm going to make you be vulnerable,
Mm.
right? So you have to be willing, because even if the senior leadership is not willing, it kind of defeats the purpose, right? Um, you have to be willing to believe in profit through purpose, because I'm going to get like that has to be a part of who you are,
Right.
right? Because people can't resonate through that, right? And but I'm profits first. We're businesses, right? We're for profits. I work with for profits, and then the last thing is that they have to be willing to believe that their people are their greatest asset. And if
Uh,
they don't believe that, I'm not here to convert cold traffic. I'm not going to convince you. If you don't already know that culture is a strategy that is going to differentiate you for attracting talent, it is going to give you higher profitabilities and greater productivity. If you don't already know that, come to me when you do. Go figure it out and then come to me. So you have to be willing that your people are your greatest asset and that they are worth investing in.
go fall on your face first, and then you'll come back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you have the problem, come see me, right? Because I can't convince you. The people who get it, get it. The
Mhm.
people who have seen the difference go, oh yeah, 100% I'm in, right? And you need that to do culture as a strategy. You need to be 100% in. You can't,
No,
it's not part-time.
yeah, totally. So you've given a lot of great insights today.
Thank
But
you.
if you had to choose one or add another one message that you would like to share everybody to remember Caitlin for, what would that be?
Ooh, thank you. Great question. The one message I would leave people with is to the most impactful thing on an individual level for your listeners is to know your values and start living by them and looking at situations through your value lens. And companies should do this too. right?
Great words to live by.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but when you said the one message I want everybody to remember me by, and you did this little shift with the camera, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but man, that effect was awesome. You shifted it to
Thank
be completely centered, and then you get your
you.
message. Perfect. Um,
I love that you analyze that. See, this is your speaking coach coming out, right? You're like, ooh, ooh, there.
that's something I'm gonna have to think about next time. Like, before I give a big impact spot or a speech, I'll shift my camera just a little bit, just so that it aligns, and then people goes, ah, he's serious now.
Oh.
Before I let you go, I got five quick rapid fire questions. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. You're stranded on the deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence.
Vindaloo.
Vindaloo.
Oh, there'll be consequences, but it'll be good.
No consequence, so you can have as much vindaloo as you want.
Oh, perfect. Good.
Um, Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey, Caitlin, we love your story. Very inspirational. Great changes in life and all that kind of stuff, and very, very successful. Who would you cast to play you?"
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock shows up at your door and goes, "Hey, Caitlin, I got cast to play you. Let's hang out. Let's have some fun. What does a night out look like with you and Sandra Bullock?"
Ooh, let's go snowboarding. I don't even know if she snowboards. Let's go snowboarding for half a day and then spend the rest at the Nordic Spa.
Ah, so now she's hungry.
Okay,
And you're
Vindaloo.
like, hey, no problem. Come back to my place. I got dinner prepped all for you. So what's that special dish that you could prepare?
Steak.
Good
I make
choice.
a mean steak.
I would love to try that sometime. And then,
Done.
and then also final question, give me a number from 1 to 5.
42. Oh, 1 to 5. Oh, 42 is the answer to the universe. Okay, let's pick four then.
1, 2, 3, 4. So the
Mhm.
word is gift bag.
Yay.
So if you're using gift bag as a metaphor for success, how is success like a gift bag?
This is a great question. How is success like a gift bag? I suppose um, success looks really shiny. You see all the people on the outside, like the frills and the ribbons that the gift bag is, and you're like, oh, look, it was just like so easy. And you don't realize all the things that had to go inside of it to really make that success work. You know, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. And I think you see the gift bag. It's just the outside of what you see. You don't see all the hard work and the dedication that went inside of it.
I see that and it's like, oh wait, but there's more.
There's so much more.
So that's how success is like a gift bag. Any final words from you, and what are the best ways for people to connect with you?
Final words for me is a big thank you and gratitude to you, Fong, for having me on your show. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Um, and the best way for people to get a hold of me is they can email me at ksmith, maiden name, ksmith at entasolutions.org, or get a hold of me on LinkedIn for KATELYN Bullock on LinkedIn. Connect with me, DM me. Instagram, I'm Lady Kate the Entrepreneur. And that's it. Yeah, connect on socials, right?
Awesome.
That's where it happens.
Exactly. So for everybody who's looking for team building, for social media stuff, for building a better culture, get in touch with Caitlin. Obviously, she knows what she's talking about. She's very, very good at it. If you're an engineer who's shy, reach out to her. I'm sure she'll pull some energy out of you and some excitement out of you as well. So thank you very much for your time. It's been great chatting with you. Learned a lot of the great stuff from you as well. And thank you for all your stories.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. So she's Caitlin. My name's Fong. Until next time, today is the day to talk peak potential. We'll see you later.